Hello, I'm Kenny Leigh of Kenny Leigh Associates. I'm here today with Kevin Connor, one of our associates in our Gainesville office. What we're going to talk about today is the Department of Revenue and what to do when you get a letter. So Kevin, what is the first contact a father usually receives when the Department of Revenue contacts them?
Most of the time you get a letter in the mail. You don't get served paperwork like a normal court case. You just get a letter.
So it's just a mailing. It's not even certified mail.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Oftentimes,
what's in the letter?
It simply states that you are requested to have child support issued upon you because you were the father of a child. That can be either the mother who enacted that proceeding or the mother's receiving some kind of government benefits.
So the mother could unilaterally, you don't even have to sign a birth certificate to get it from the Department of Revenue. The mother could just say you're the father. Is that right?
That is correct, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, so what should a client do? Well, first of all, the letter will be to address child support. Does it address initially from the Department of Revenue any time sharing or shared parental responsibility?
The Department of Revenue does not have the ability to establish a time-sharing schedule, so it's strictly financial.
Okay. So a lot of people get confused about that. You go to a hearing and you have to pay child support, yet you have zero rights. You have to get those rights judicially established in a separate proceeding. We'll talk about that in another video. So what should, let's say a client, a father gets served, and by served we mean mail, one of these letters, what should they do?
Don't ignore it. That's the number one thing.
Well, let me stop you there. What could happen if they did ignore it?
Child support can be established, and there doesn't even need to be a hearing for that to be established. As well, you can be deemed the father, whether you are or not the father, and more importantly, they're going to take into account whatever finances they have on record for you and the other side without.
That is huge. So if you are not the father, we've had people before say, I'm not the father, so I'm just going to ignore it. They will establish you the father, and they will give you a child support based on whatever income the opposing party says. What happens with arrearage at one of these hearings?
Arrearage can be established based on how long you haven't paid child support for. And once that's established, you cannot take it back at that point.
And it's based on what the mother says. So she could say that you've never seen the child, even though you may have just moved out last week. And therefore your arrearage, and it is, they can only go back 2 years prior to the filing of the petition, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so Kevin, what if you get this letter and you are not the father? What would you do?
Your first thing is you need to respond. If you don't respond, they can automatically enter an order making you the father.
So you should do a writing, something in writing.
Yeah, you should file a response and ask for a hearing. Okay,
and the directions are very clear on these letters. Definitely do something in writing, but if you don't do something in writing, at least show up to the hearing. It's very clear, and it doesn't have to be pretty. What I like to say is it doesn't have to be a novel or a book. You just put in there your true thoughts. In winding up, Kevin, is there anything else with regard to the Department of Revenue letters or hearings that you think we should know?
The one thing is you usually have 20 days to respond, and if you are able to respond within those 20 days, a lot of times you can get it removed from the Department of Revenue hearing into a circuit court where you can establish rights if you are the father. Okay.
Bottom line, it's actually not difficult to respond to these letters. But the difficulty you get if you don't respond is huge and can cost you a lot of fees to try to get you out of something that you could have handled very easily. Again, Kenny Leigh Associates, all we do is represent men. All we do is family law. For more questions, go to divorcemenonly.com.